Welcome to The Good Woman Awakens. This is a space for women who were taught to be good, but were never taught to be whole. Here, we do not perform empowerment, we examine it. We look at patterns, we look at conditioning, we look at the roles we were trained to play, and the identities we are ready to release. This is not about blaming men, it is not about bitterness, and it is not about noise. It is about awareness, emotional sovereignty, and the quiet courage to see clearly. If something feels uncomfortable here, well, stay with it. Awakening is rarely loud, but it is always honest. Let's begin. You didn't ignore the red flags because you were stupid. You ignored them because they didn't feel like danger. They felt familiar. And I know many women don't like hearing that, because it sounds like self-blame. But listen to your auntie for a moment. Familiarity is not a moral failure. It's a nervous system pattern. Let's start here. A red flag is not just a bad thing someone did. A red flag is a pattern that predicts future harm. And patterns are not always loud. Sometimes they're quiet. A tone, a refusal to repair, a sudden coldness after closeness, a consistent lack of accountability, a little lie, a little disappearance, a little, it wasn't that deep. So why didn't you leave early? Why did your mind keep saying, maybe I'm overthinking, maybe I'm too sensitive, maybe he's just stressed? There are layers, and we're going to go deeper than surface advice today. First layer, projection. When a person has not been fully seen in life, not fully mirrored, not fully understood, the mind becomes skilled at filling gaps. It creates meaning. It creates hope. It creates a story. And then it places that story onto another person. So you did not just see him. You saw what he could become. You saw the version of him you hoped was real. You saw your future. You saw your answer prayer. You saw your finally. And you treated that picture as evidence. But here is the hard truth, spoken softly. Potential is not proof. Potential is not character. Potential is not consistency. Potential is not repair. A woman can love a man's potential for 10 years and still be married to his pattern. Second layer, family systems. In Bowen family systems, there is something called the family projection process. That's the way anxiety and emotional problems get transmitted to a child. Not always through violence, sometimes through focus, through worry, through over-attention, through roles. Many women grew up in families where their value was in being easy, being good, being helpful, being quiet. So you learned a rule: if I keep harmony, I stay safe. That rule doesn't disappear when you become an adult. It becomes a lens. So when you see a red flag, your system does not ask, "Is this safe?" Your system asks, "How do I keep harmony?" That is a completely different question, and it will keep you stuck. Third layer, commitment loops. There is research on why people stay in relationships even when satisfaction is low. One major explanation is the investment model. When you have invested time, effort, identity, shared history, children, community, commitment can remain high even when joy is low. So the longer you stay, the more your mind fights reality. Because leaving feels like losing the investment, and the mind hates loss. That is why women often say, "I stayed because I already put so much in." That is not romance, that is investment, and it is human. But it can become a trap. Fourth layer, victimhood stories. Some people live from a wound identity, not just "I was hurt," but "I am the hurt one." And when someone is organized around being the wounded one, your empathy becomes easy to hook. Because you are compassionate. And compassion is beautiful. But compassion without discernment becomes self-betrayal. Here is what this looks like. They do something harmful, then they become the victim of your reaction. They misbehave, then they are hurt that you noticed. They refuse accountability, then you are attacking. So you learn to soften your perception, to avoid emotional backlash. That's how red flags get blurred. Not because you can't see, but because the cost of seeing feels too high. Now here's the part you need to hold gently. If your early life taught you that love is unpredictable, that affection can be withdrawn, that closeness can turn into coldness, then inconsistency does not register as danger, it registers as normal. Your body says, this is what love feels like, even if your mind suffers. So you rationalise, you explain, you give more time, you give more chances, you start managing their moods, you start walking on eggshells, and slowly, you call anxiety devotion. Now, how do you stop this? Not with fear, with a new skill, pattern literacy. Here is the Stoic practice for this episode. Epictetus begins with a division. Some things are up to you, some things are not. So when you see a red flag, your job is not to control them into being safe. Your job is to control your access, your time, your body, your openness. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to argue. You don't need to over-explain. You simply treat patterns as information. Here is a simple red flag filter. Ask 3 questions. 1. Does this person repair? Not apologize. Repair. Do they make it right? Do they change behaviour? 2. Does this person take responsibility without turning it into a story? No excuses, no blame shifting, no, you made me. 3. Do I feel calmer over time or more anxious over time? Because love should not increase your nervous system alarm. Now a final truth. Sometimes you ignore red flags because you want your suffering to mean something. You want the investment to pay off. You want the story to end in redemption. But your life is not a movie. Your body is not a sacrifice altar. And your future does not owe your past a justification. So if this episode touches you, I want you to practice one small thing this week. When you notice a red flag, don't explain it away. Write it down. 1 sentence. Just the behaviour. No story. No psychology. Just the fact. Facts bring you back to reality. Reality brings you back to yourself. And that is where your power begins. Notice what resonated and notice what resisted. Both are information. Sometimes what unsettles you is not attack, it is recognition. You cannot change your past. You cannot rewrite the years you overgave. You cannot undo the times you stayed longer than you should have. But you can change what you tolerate now. You can change what you explain away. You can change what you excuse. You can change the standards you quietly lower to keep peace. Awareness does not make you cold. It makes you clear. And when a good woman becomes clear, she stops negotiating with patterns that cost her dignity. She stops mistaking endurance for love. She stops calling emotional labor devotion. She stops trying to be the reason someone else matures. She turns inward. She stabilizes herself. And from that place, her choices change naturally, not dramatically, not angrily, quietly. Until next time, stay conscious, stay steady, and stay awake.